There is something special inside you.
Welcome to GNG Podcast with your host, speaker, best-selling author, Chaz Jackson.
Yo, what's going on, kings and queens? It's your boy Chaz Jackson coming back to you once again, representing GNG Gift and a Gift. Hey, I personally just want to take the time to tell each and every one of you, thank you for giving me your eyes and ears once again as we get ready to dive deep into some inspiration that I pray will plant like a seed in your mind and assist you in becoming a greater version of yourself. So I am super excited about episode 45. You guys are in for an amazing treat. My guy, Clay Cuts, he's in the house. He's going to bring some amazing value on the theme that we're diving into, the square peg coaching, how to thrive. And we're going to talk a little bit about that flagship program. And he's going to provide some tips and techniques that you guys can apply right now and take that daily challenge on implementing in your life. And I'm getting ready to introduce this giant here in a moment. But before I do that, I want to go over the motto of this platform, GNG Podcast. We are all gifted differently to make a difference. And with me saying that, I know there are tons of difference makers that's listening to this right now. I know I'm about to have one that's about to come on and inspire each and every one of you, but let us know that you're here. Comment, share this out if you feel like this is something that you're going to be able to resonate with, and you know someone that can benefit from that, whether it's a student, teacher, parent, coach, youth advocate, pastor, whatever comes to mind for you. Let's get them in front of this. And man, we know that this show is based on providing tips and techniques. If you viewed this show or this podcast in the past, but for my new listeners, we provide tips and techniques for young males as they strive towards growing in personal development. And I want to just take the time to invite you to take this daily challenge with me of becoming a passionate visionary who is determined to leave a legacy for themselves by adopting unwavering life values and serving others in the area of gifting led by God. So I know if you are a listener that's been viewing GNG Podcast, you're taking that daily challenge. All my new listeners right now, I encourage you to take that daily challenge with me, and let's continue to strive towards being our greatest version of ourselves so that we can add value to others. But let me go ahead and read off Clay's short bio, and we're going to get this giant on the show. Clay Cut, he's a social worker, he's an author, a speaker, therapist, and performance coach out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. This guy is so passionate about helping people overcome barriers and obstacles and influence how to provide and share their fruit to the world to create a better society than what, they was born into. And I'm going to leave this short and sweet and let him get on GNG Podcast. You are live, Clay Cuts, man. Are you ready to get it, King?
I'm ready to rock and roll, Chaz.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much again for blessing the audience with your presence. And again, I know what I read off was short and sweet. Is there anything else you would like the audience to know about yourself?
Yeah, I guess that sort of sums it up. But I think that a couple things that are important to know sort of about me, where I come from in terms of talking to people and working with clients and sharing with people. Two things that I fundamentally believe about people is that, one, all people are good and valuable and worthwhile just because they are. Right. And I want that message to be, every time I get a chance to speak in public, I share that because there's somebody that needs to hear that about themselves. And yes, I'm talking to you, whoever you are. I believe that about you too. The other thing is that we have, all humans are blessed with immense, with unlimited personal power. Right. And I love working with people on getting out of their own way in order to tap into that personal power that has a divine source in my mind.
Dude, I really love that. I love how you say, we are all valuable.
Yeah.
We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and everyone, we have this full potential inside of us. I like to call it the seed of greatness. And once it's
Yeah.
properly watered in your environment, when people are brought into your path to help you grow and prosper into who you're called to be, that seed of greatness water, it's going to birth fruit that you can share with other people. So, dude, I so wholeheartedly agree with what you're talking about, and there's no better way of saying that. And again, I know I read off, you being a performance coach, really inspiring people through being a best-selling author and so many other areas. Where did all that start from? Can you share your back end story on how did you get up to the point of being the individual you are today?
Oh yeah, wow, that's a big question. So out of necessity arises solutions, right? And so for me, a lot of my personal story of struggle goes back a long way. I had a few events in my life that were really difficult, but I had a chronic disease, still do, deadly chronic disease, alcoholism, and I struggled with it for a long time, to the point where it was pretty serious. And had that conversation with the doctor where she had this worried look on her face, and she was like, "You got to do something, because this is, your liver enzymes are really out of whack, and you're not well, Clay." And I really had to make some big decisions. And I was luckily I was able to pull out of that. But it's an interesting story about how that happened, because it was really a moment in my life that changed everything. It was a morning in October. This was 2006, and I woke up and I felt just horrible. Went into the bathroom and I was really, really sick, and I couldn't even stand, really, because my legs had some neuropathy in my legs from all the drinking. And I ended up sitting on the edge of the tub, and the bathroom was configured in a way that I could sit on the tub and still sort of see myself in the mirror. And I said the most honest prayer I've ever said in that moment. I said, "God, please, either heal me or just take me. Like either one of those, I'm fine with either one of those, because I absolutely cannot do this another day." And I had the sense of this voice, of this presence that said, "Okay, it's time." And I knew what it meant. It meant it was time to stop. It was time to change. And I said, "I don't know if I can do that." And he said, "Well, yeah, you're right. It's going to be hard." And there was a sense of being at a crossroads. Like, this is like the most important decision I've ever made. Like, which way am I going to go? And like, one way was like over the edge of the cliff, and the other way was to step into my inheritance through God, right?
I love it, man.
And it seems like an obvious choice, but I leaned into salvation, into the right way, the away from the abyss, kind of, so to speak. And went back to graduate school, got my master's degree, and started working with people, and just started helping people, and started learning, and went into private practice. And that was an awesome experience, because I was able to really help people in the way that I most was able to, and not within some other framework. I'm definitely an entrepreneur. I've worked with myself for a long time, and so I just sort of think about things that way. And so the coaching, where that came from, is people ask me, "How did you become a coach?" The answer is accidentally. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So coaching, I was working with people in my therapy practice, and they would show up with whatever challenge they had. It was I did a lot of addiction work. That's sort of where my passion lies. because of my history. And so people would show up with their addiction issues or anxiety or grief or, sort of whatever you would normally go to a therapist for. And so we would work together, and people would get better, and they would say, all right, thanks. They'd sort of go on. And then, but every once in a while, somebody would go, that was great, Clay. What's next? Because we met our goals, and I would go, I don't know what's next. Like, that's all I got, but it turns out that's not all I had, because what I started doing was teaching people what I was working on, and that was the spiritual journey that I was on, and it was the self-help books I was reading, and the philosophy books, and the all the conferences I was going to, and trainings I was attending, all the things I was doing. Really, I was doing all that to help me, right? I wasn't doing it in terms of context of being helpful to other people, but then I realized, well, maybe I'll teach people some of this stuff. And it was great. And I started really kind of leaning into that. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I've been doing that for several years. And I didn't realize that that's really coaching, right? Yeah. And so I like the accidental coach. And then, because it's funny, because, a few years ago, if you had told me that I would be doing life coaching, I would have laughed and said, oh, life coaching, that's that stuff that people who want to be therapists do. They can't make it as therapists, right? But really, there's some super talented people in the life coaching and in the coaching field in the area. And as I've leaned into it and read more and gotten to know some people, there's some real superstars out here that really make a difference in people's lives. And so I was like, wow, this is this whole world. And so I've really, over the last few years, leaned into coaching and helping people sort of navigate that piece of their life, and not just the therapy, the clinical issues.
Ooh, thank you so much for going into a little bit more detail, and going back to, man, I love the title of your book, Beyond the Bottle, and you getting beyond the bottle in a sense, right? I mean, struggling, being at your wit's end, and that's one of the reasons why, I feel like I resonate with you and wanted you to get it for the audience, because you had that story, and I relate so much that it took for me, having alcohol abuse and putting myself in a situation, seconds away from a head-on collision with another vehicle, being missing about inches, crashing, being arrested, putting in a situation where, I had to really get authentic with who Chaz Jackson was and allow God to take over. And, we all have our stories. We all have our trials and tribulations, but it seems that always becomes the case when it's kind of out of our own strength. We need something greater than ourselves to assist us with getting to where we need to be, to have and facilitate that faith to get our feelings and our beliefs and our opinions about ourselves greater than what it was while we was under that influence. So I just want to go ahead and say this too, man. I know you was mentioning all those amazing people in your area that's doing big things as a life coach, man. You are one of those individuals, and God, so let's throw that out there. And guys, man, thank you so much for your resiliency and getting back up even during some moments in your life where you had lost hope, right? And you felt like you was at your wit's end. But again, man, you fought and you got to where you are right now. And I say this a lot, man, but our stories have the potential to be oxygen to a suffocated individual in the world. And I know that's what your story is, man. And I want you to dive a little bit deeper on Beyond the Bottle, because I know there's somebody's listening right now that potentially is dealing with alcohol addiction, drug addiction, or they know someone that's dealing with it and they don't know how to truly help them. So I guess my next question is coming from a tip or technique set standpoint, more of a ritual that you adopted over the years with, overcoming the alcohol addiction that you can provide for the audience. And I guess I'm asking you two questions. Can you come from a standpoint of, a young person maybe dealing with an adult, and then vice versa, if that makes sense? What is something that truly worked for you to help you get on the path you're on right now?
So it's a great question, Chaz. I don't want to oversimplify it. Let me just say this. This is like the therapist in me wants to say this, that this is just from an educational perspective. If someone's using alcohol every day and has been for a while, quitting drinking without medical supervision is not only dangerous, it's life threatening. People can die from alcohol withdrawal syndrome. Now, don't say it to scare people, but I want folks to realize that because what I'm about to say that makes what I'm about to say even more important. The most important thing about managing your drinking or your drug use, if you want to stop, is please don't try to do it by yourself.
Wow,
that would be the most important thing. Whether you find a 12-step program, or whether maybe if your church has some sort of expertise in that area. Some churches are really good about it. Some not quite as good. Find a therapist. Go to if it's significant enough, go to treatment. But find somebody to help walk you through that, because it's, even with all the best resources, it's tricky, right? And I don't want to be negative about this, because the truth is, if someone is using drugs and alcohol and they want to quit, like today could be the last day you do it. Like today could be it. Like if you don't ever want to drink or drug again, that's available to you, right? And if you don't believe that, just believe that I believe it. Right?
I love it, man. That's really good.
If it's too hard for you, I mean, if it's too much to believe, and I know, because when I was in that moment and somebody told me that, I was like, no, that's not, it may be true for you, but it's not true for me. But I'm telling, like, whoever's listening that needs to hear this message, yeah, it's true for you as well. And so the skill of asking for help seems like not a big deal, but man, it is hard. Mm. And that's, if you can find the courage to ask for help from somebody, that would be my most important thing I would suggest someone do.
Mm. Dude, that's so powerful, asking for help. And for me, man, that took a lot, because, I called it, me and 16 other authors, we had the opportunity to come together and create a book called The Impact of Influence that actually was released this past March the 27th. Proud to say my guy Chip Baker, phenomenal individual. You know who Chip is.
I know Chip, yeah. Good people.
He brought us together in that book. Phenomenal resource. Just reading those guys' stories, and in that book, in my chapter, I shared my story, and whenever you're talking about your traumas and dramas with other people, that's something that I've struggled with, and I called it emotional baggage, right? And negative emotional baggage, just these emotions, feelings, beliefs, and opinions about myself that I just stuffed in this bag because I wasn't willing to just share it out there, and I didn't know what else to do with it. And sometimes, what I've discovered along my journey, we cling on to the alcohol and the drugs and the poor relationships, and we can draw the line and plug in the blank of situations that happen, but we just don't have any solutions for those problems. So, we cling on to those things. And again, I call it emotional baggage, but it wasn't until, I opened up that bag and really allowed someone else to look at that bag and say, hey, let's begin to create some solutions for these problems. And dude, that is so gold, whoever's listening, or if you just now tuning in, How to Thrive. My guy, Clay Cutts, he's giving some amazing value, and we're talking about communication and getting good people around you when you're wanting to make a radical change in your life. Because for me, man, that's what it took for me to kick my alcohol abuse, getting counseling and really trusting people, to kind of go through these battles with me, to go through the storms with me. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. But it does take you being humble and surrendering, if that makes sense. And I love the word surrender because the word end is in surrender. Like if you can pull it out, meaning ending your ego. And that's something hard, even for me, man, I'm picking on myself for doing. But again, I love what you said, and whoever listening, if you are struggling with somebody, get around people that you can fellowship with. But also, I love what John Maxwell says, whenever you're striving to grow into a greater version of yourself, get around people that are ahead of you. And, they speak that in the AA meetings, 12 steps, wherever the case may be, getting around people that's had some time put in from overcoming that addiction, because then they will be able to show you how to walk that journey. And that's kind of going back to your story, Clay. So I know you're impacting a lot of people because you've walked that journey, you've overcome it. Now you're like, man, if I can do it, you can do it. If Chaz can do it, you can do it. That's what we're calling out to people and saying. So, man, that's amazing stuff. Again, what you shared, that communication is key. And moving into the theme of this, man, how to thrive. When you hear that, what does that mean to you, Clay? And kind of going into that flagship program, can you share that a little bit with us?
Sure. So it's funny. I was work with people in so many different areas of their life. Like, so people come to me. So here's the idea that's sort of central for me is that, the question is, how do I achieve a goal? And a client will come, or a prospect will ask me how they can do that. And I'll say, you can't, right? The goal you want to achieve is impossible. What you have to do is you have to become somebody else who's capable of achieving that goal, right?
Wow, I like that.
Yeah. So it's like every single goal you've ever had, you, Chaz, or me, or anybody else, every single goal we've ever had was at some time impossible, right? So I love when people go, oh, but that goal's impossible. And I go, haha, challenge. Here we go, right? Like, and we're gonna figure out a way to make it happen, because everything starts as impossible. So that said, I started. So I work with people on a really broad spectrum of issues, business issues or relationship issues or addiction issues, or, I just like, I have this book I want to write and I don't know how to do it. Kind of like all that sort of stuff. Work with people who have problems or dreams. Like, those are my two areas. And I was having trouble like sort of articulating what it is that was sort of common across all those areas. And if one day a client actually said it to me, he said, Clay, I just want to thrive. And I went, that's it. Like, that's what we want to do, right? And it means something different to everybody, right? Like, I want to have this really great marriage, or I want to be a really, really good parent, or I want to make a bunch of money, or I want to, like, be in ministry, like whatever it means. Like, that's available to you, and you get to choose. I'm really a big believer in the power of choice, right? You get to choose what's important to you and what's valuable to you and what your message to the world needs to be. Right. And the other, so that's sort of what I help people do through my coaching program. I do that to a large extent in my private practice, my therapy practice, but really with my coaching clients, that's what I'm helping them do, is to go from, wherever they are to something much, much, a more evolved version of themselves.
Dude, I love you using that word choice, because I've heard it put this way from the cat down the road. He says choice is your superpower, right? Yeah, having that choice. And, our thoughts create actions, and our actions create consequences. So in between thoughts and actions, if we can put good choices as a bridge, right, in between that thought and action, and that's a lot of things that I teach to my young men, is really getting those good values, interests, and principles, choices as a bridge in between your thoughts and actions. And then we're going to be able, if we can discipline ourselves or create a healthy lifestyle by doing that, then we're going to create some good consequences. That's going to, we can pretty much predict some of our outcomes, whether we're talking about personal outcomes or family, work, school, community, or whatever the case may be. So I love how you dived into choice. That's really good stuff, Clay. Whoever's listening, hopefully you got your pen and paper and you're taking some copious notes, because Square Peg Coaching is in the house, and he's giving some amazing things. He's teaching us how to thrive effectively on episode 45. And I want to dive into this. So again, I told you I like the book Beyond the Bottle. I look forward to diving into that more. And I know you talk about 9 powerful strategies to reclaim your life in that book. So last question here, Clay. So you have someone that's listening to you right now, and they're wanting to learn how to thrive. I talked about that seed of greatness earlier, and unleashing that fruit for other people, serving, Obviously, we have to understand how to value ourselves before we can truly value other people. And as John Maxwell says, add value to other people. But out of
Yes.
those 9 powerful strategies, could you just share one of them with us that comes to mind to help that seed of greatness bring forth that fruit and how to thrive based off of that strategy?
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll sum up all the strategies really in one idea that I really teach a lot, and it's similar to what you've been talking about, and it's managing the internal environment, managing the stories we tell ourselves, because we become the stories we tell ourselves, right? And if
You gotta say that again, man. Please, somebody need to hear that one, man. You dropping the mic too early.
we become the stories we tell ourselves,
Dude, that's
right?
good stuff.
And if we tell ourselves we can't, we can't. If we tell ourselves we're not good enough, we're not good enough. If we tell ourselves nobody loves us or nobody cares about us, we can create the situation where that is true through our behaviors, right?
Wow. That's so true.
But it's so true. We in a very real way, we manifest our reality by the thinking, the stories, the beliefs that we cultivate, and we hold on to, and we build it in our minds. And so the one thing that I work on every single client with is managing that thought. If we have thoughts that are not helpful, we have to do something about it. And here's the thing, Chaz.
Thank you so much for blessing GNG Podcast with your time, your effort, your experience, your livelihood, sharing your fruit, and pouring out to each and every guest that's been on this show and audience that's been on this show. Can you share your contact information with us? I know there's somebody that's listening to you right now that wants to learn more about Square Peg Coaching and how they can get in contact with you and check out some more of your work.
Yeah, and thanks for having me tonight. Good, really good stuff. I love the work you're doing, Chaz, and I hope you keep it up for a long time. My contact information, probably the best way to reach me is through my website. It's my name, claycuts.com. There's some information on there and some content if you're interested about thriving and a way to connect me there. That's claycuts.com is the best way to reach me.
Beautiful. Again, brother, thank you so much for your time, your effort. I'm going to go ahead and lead us off, Clay, or lead us out. Hey, I told you episode 45 was going to be amazing. Go ahead, let us know what tip or technique that you're going to take from this episode and take that daily challenge on implementing in your life moving forward. We would love to hear more from you. We would love to understand more of how we can add value to you. But in the meantime, I want you to stay up with GNG. More episodes coming soon. I want you to do 2 things for me. Keep that crown on your heart. And please remember this. We are God's echo. I love each and every one of you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to GNG Podcast. Remember, you are gifted differently to make a difference. Please visit ChazJacksonSpeaks.org and let's continue to grow together. God bless.